welcome to our bullying workshop. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an intro into the Utah Parent Center and let you know a little bit about who we are. Um, our mission at the Utah Parent Center is to help parents help their children, youth, and young adults with all disabilities to live included, productive lives as members of the community. We accomplish our mission by providing accurate information, empathetic peer support, valuable training, and effective advocacy based on the concept of parents helping parents. So everyone at the Parent Center has a child with a disability. And so we're able to give that peer-to-peer support. We might not have traveled your exact path, but we've definitely traveled a similar one. Okay. If my slides will, there we go. The Utah Parent Center provides many services to the community in the areas of education, transition, healthcare, and community access. Our statewide and regional parent consultants meet with parents and professionals at no cost to them. We offer these services in person, over the phone, via email, and via video chat. We also create and share information and resources through our website and our social media platforms. We offer many workshops like tonight and classes for free to parents and professionals as well. To access information about our live workshops and training classes, please visit our website, which I'll give you that information on the next slide, on our events calendar. And often, if you're part of our listserv, then you get information and notices of the different events that are coming up. One event I do want to highlight on May 1st is when you can sign up for our annual Family Fest. And it's going to be at the Tracy Aviary, and you get admission to the Tracy Aviary for free. And then there's all kinds of really great activities. So look for that notification. And if you happen to miss it, then just call into the center on May 1st and we can get you linked up to be able to do that. But it's a really fun event you don't want to miss. And you can invite your whole entire family. Also, if your kiddo is talent oriented, then you can, there's a talent show that we do, that they're actually getting people to send in videos and things of their talent. So let us know if you want to know more information about that. But I am Rochelle Thompson, and I am the parent consultant for Select Charter Schools. I serve 6 different charter schools throughout the Valley, and here's my contact information. At the bottom is our main office that you can call into and also get support. And then, Renee, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Renee Hadfield, and I'm with Box Elder School District, so I can help parents directly with Box Elder School District.
Wonderful. Okay, so now we're wondering if you'd be willing to fill out the demographic survey. It's going to pop up on your screen. And this is a report that we use for different grant purposes, and none of your information will be shared with anyone. Everything is lumped into a very general category, but it would be super helpful if you wouldn't mind just taking a second and filling that out for us. And we'll give you a couple of minutes to do that before we get started with our presenter. Is there anybody that still needs more time? Maybe just unmute and let me know.
Maybe I'll leave it up.
Yes, just a few minutes. It kicked me out.
Okay.
So give me just 1 second.
Okay, no problem.
And I can leave it up while we're gonna stop screen sharing and we're gonna let our presenter share. So we'll leave it up as I talk and while Amy starts to screen share. We're so excited tonight to have Amy Torres here from Utah State University. She's going to go ahead and give a bio of herself once she gets her screen sharing. So, but we are thankful she's here and we're excited to hear from her.
All right, let's see. I'm trying to get to presenter mode here. There we go. So I am so excited to be here with you guys tonight. Thank you guys. Let's see, we're going to turn off. There we go. So my name is Amy Torres. I'm with Utah State University, and I am currently what's called a program coordinator with what's called Project CREST. That stands for Creating Resilient Students. So I work with 20 schools in Granite School District and in Salt Lake School District. And I go around and we teach parent education to students and parents about different topics. And bullying is one of my favorite ones to teach because I've been in the schools for 18 years. I started out working in the front office, and I'm currently going to school for my master's degree in social work. And so I am currently a school social worker, and I am very passionate about bullying and how to help our students thrive when it comes to these issues that we're seeing in schools. And I work currently in 2 schools with 2 AA units. And so especially those students with disabilities and helping them to be able to advocate for themselves and help parents advocate for their students. So as we go through this, we're going to go pretty fast. So if you do have some questions, please hold them till the end and we'll get to those as we can. All right, so we're going to go ahead and cover today what it means between bullying versus mean versus rude, and how it can start off as being mean and rude, but if it's repeated, that's what bullying is. And it's important for parents and students to understand the difference, because when we understand that, then we're able to actually report that better for our students and get the help that we need. And we want to teach our students to advocate for themselves the best that they can, whether that's to a teacher or to a friend that can help, to a para, or to an administrator. And then what are some of those consequences for those who are involved? So I do have a question for you guys. When do you think bullying at school is the most prevalent? And you can just go ahead and shout it out. Do you think it's elementary school, junior high, or high school?
Junior high.
I say elementary.
Elementary.
Okay, so it depends on what type we're looking at. Oh, let's see. My slides went in the wrong order for some reason, and I don't know why. They got bumped, so we're going to skip it for a second. Okay, so this is what the annual CDC report is showing us. The elementary school it's actually quite a bit lower, and this was as of 2025. So I don't know if you guys have heard of what's called the SHARP data, but they don't do that in elementary schools. They do what's called Panorama in a lot of Utah schools. And so this is kind of where they take in that, as well as from like school reported data. And so they take all of that and they put that into the CDC report. So in elementary school, we're actually seeing a decline. If you look at the blue, it shows in-school bullying compared to cyberbullying. So luckily, cyberbullying is still staying quite a bit lower. And then in middle schools, if you guys look at that jump, that is huge. So we're seeing a huge jump, especially in cyberbullying. And then in that in-school bullying, we're also seeing an increase. And then in high school, what do you guys notice about the high school bullying? What happens to that in-person and cyberbullying?
It becomes half
The
of the
cyberbullying is skyrocketed,
Right.
and the in-person bullying is not.
Yeah, it's like half. The in-school bullying is half of what the cyberbullying is. So according to the CDC, there's 1 in 5 are bullied at school and 1 in 6 are cyberbullied. And when we look at the breakdown of this, 29% of the white students are bullied, 19% are Hispanic are bullied, and 18% of Black students are bullied. And this is, we don't know if it's because this is what's reported with these students. Not all students are going to come forward with this. And then teenagers with developmental disabilities, 44.4% of them are more likely to be bullied than teenagers without a developmental disability. And the CDC school-specific stats state that the highest at-school bullying and cyberbullying reports that 28% of middle school and junior highs, 16% of high schools, 12% combined schools, and 9% of primary schools are going to see that in school. And then again, looking at that cyberbullying in school. So helping our kids understand where we're going to be seeing that bullying and what is more prevalent in the schools is important as well, because they might just think, oh, this doesn't happen, or, oh, cyberbullying is not a thing, but helping them understand that it is happening in their schools, even if they don't see it, is very important. And then how many of you guys have junior high and high school kids? And then do some of you guys still have elementary kids?
Yes, elementary.
Okay. So some of these might not apply to all of you, but this is just information so that you can see where it is happening at the beginning. And then we'll get into more of what you can do that applies to everybody. But it is good information for you to know. And so again, we're going to see a high number of females that are reported bullying. That's 30% of females are bullied and 19% of males are bullied. And again, we're seeing this because we think it's more the females are reporting it more than males. Males sometimes take care of it more on their own. And then 40% of LGBTQ population are being bullied, and 22% of heterosexual oriented students are being bullied. So we are seeing definitely that's being weighed more on one side than the other. And then that sharp data that I was talking about in Utah compared to the nation, this is the one that just came out in 2025. And I apologize, I was not able to pull Box Elders, but this is the state compared to Salt Lake County. And if you look closely at the black dots, that is the state average. And this is over the last 3 times. And so right here, this is during the past 30 days, a student has felt so unsafe at or on the way to school that the student has skipped school. And so it's done in the 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th grades. And I just want to show you these because there has been some improvement as we've been bringing bullying to the forefront of people's attention. So that is good, but there is still some problems as we are dealing with this still. So if you look here, you can see that overall there has been a drop since in some of these areas. Some of them are still increasing, but it is good to see some improvement and to see that Utah or Salt Lake is lower. I was happy about that, but Utah itself is still needing to work on that. So having conversations about bullying with your kids is really important because we are seeing it in 6th grade and lower. I work currently in 2 elementary schools and we see bullying clear down in kindergarten. So having honest conversations about bullying and what it is with your little kids is very important to start at that age, just so that they can understand it. Okay, so who is affected by bullying? It's not just the student who is being bullied. The student who experiences the bullying is going to be affected, but the students who see the bullying are also going to be affected, and the student who does the bullying is going to be affected. So sometimes we don't think about all 3 of those or the group in whole who sees what's happening, but all of those people are going to be affected by that. So let's break it down a little bit and talk about how they're being affected. So the student who experiences the bullying, of course, is the target of bullying. And these kids can experience a range of negative physical, social, academic, and mental health issues. For example, they're going to be more likely to experience depression, anxiety, and then it's like a domino effect. So they're more likely to skip school, not want to be there. They're going to be anxious. That I don't know about you guys, but they're going to be like, my stomach hurts. I don't want to go to school today. And that affects their grades. And the more absent they are, then you're going to get called to the social worker's office and they're going to have a discussion about why you're not supposed to miss school, chronic absenteeism, and how that's going to affect them, especially as, you know, they get older and that builds on those skills that they're learning. So we don't want to see that happen, especially as they get older. There's that fear of dropping out and they just don't come at all. And so we want to be careful with that. We know that there are severe instances of bullying and we hear about those. I don't want you guys to hear about severe issues and go, oh my goodness, that's going to happen to my child if my child is bullied. But we want to have these open conversations with our kids because we want to be that point of contact for our kids. We want to have a connection with them. We want them to know that we are willing to talk to them about these hard issues so that if it is happening, they come and talk to us, that they're not keeping it inside, so that we don't want them to become a statistic of something. And when we do hear about these statistics, know that they are so small and rare. They are serious, but they are not a huge number. And so we don't want to have it blown out of proportion, as serious as it is. So I do want you to keep that in mind as well. All right, the students who witness the bullying they also deal with this and have increased issues. Because I have worked in a junior high, and that is where the highest amount is. I worked there for 15 years. I saw a lot of students who witnessed bullying and would have a lot of anxiety issues because of that. So in addition to the mental health issues and the anxiety issues from that, they would skip school. They wouldn't want to come because they didn't want to rat on their friends for that. They didn't want to be a part of that. But then you would also see a risk of increased substance use because of that, because that's how they would deal with things. And so you would see that happening not only in the kids that were being bullied sometimes, but then you would see this now happening in the students who witnessed the bullying. So it is this domino effect that affects more than just those two that were being the target and the bully. And then we have the student who is doing the bullying. But my question is, why do we care? Why do we care about the student who is doing the bullying? Why do we want to delve into this student? What is going on with this student? Why is it important for us to worry about them? You know, what's going to happen to the student? Why are they doing this bullying? What's causing them to do this? We don't know what's happening. So there is probably going to be some issues that are affecting them to cause them to do this. There could be something that's going on that we have no idea what's happening in their life. And if we don't help them, or if they don't get help, then those behaviors can start to escalate, especially during adolescence and into adulthood. It does sometimes start out with that aggression. They get into those small fights. They engage in that bullying. They're more likely to become violent and then start to do property damage, vandalize things, drop out of school, misuse alcohol and other drugs. And then they can become abusive towards their romantic partners, spouse, and children as they become adults. And that's definitely a dramatic thing that can happen. So we want to, as we identify students who are bullying in schools, just put a stop to that and find out why they're doing these things early on. So that's why we care. It's not always, we don't always want to label a consequence that's harsh with it. We want to find out the root cause of why they're doing this so that we can help them so that they don't go on this path. All right, this is one of my favorite things because, again, I worked in the front office of a junior high for 11 years. And I would have people coming in all the time, Miss Amy, so-and-so is bullying me. So-and-so is bullying me. And I would ask what was happening, and they looked at me wrong. I'm like, okay, well, that is not bullying. Or they bumped into me in the hall. Or they pushed me, or they stole my pencil. How many times did they do this? Well, just today. Okay, well, that is not bullying. So helping kids understand the differences between what is rude, what is mean, and what is bullying will really help. Because if you think of your child's school, there's probably quite a few kids in your child's school. Again, I have two schools. One school has about 230 kids, and one school has 400 kids. And if every kid was reporting every incident of like that, it would get to be a lot of bullying incidents. And if there really was a serious issue of bullying and our administration and social workers had to go through all of those, they took my pencil, they looked at me wrong, they bumped me, those really serious bullying issues would get overlooked, or it would take a long time to get to them. So it's important as parents to help our students and our kids know what it really means. So it is rude if it's accidental, not on purpose, and a student's only thinking of themselves. And I'm going to be honest, being in a school for a long time, I love students, but a lot of times they're only thinking of themselves, especially when they're teenagers. Okay, it's mean if it's intentional, on purpose, if it's meant to hurt someone, and done out of anger. Okay, and it is bullying if it is intentional, on purpose, if it's targeted, if they are purposely targeting someone, if it's repeated, so it's done more than once, and if there is an imbalance of power. And we're going to break these down so that we can get into this just a little bit more. So being rude. So what are some examples of being rude that you guys could think of? So I have some descriptions here a little bit. What are some examples of being rude that you could think of? I have some from my elementary students, if you guys can't think of any.
Calling somebody a name.
Okay, calling someone a name. I love it. Okay, so does someone else have one?
Like cutting in line, something like that.
I love it. Cutting in line. That was actually one from my elementary students. So these are going to be spontaneous, unplanned, and inconsiderate based on thoughtlessness, but not actually meant to hurt someone. So these are from my elementary students. So burping, bragging, cutting in line, horseplay, being disrespectful, and getting in someone's personal space. So these are just rude. They didn't mean to. We have a lot of students that like to burp in someone's face. Sometimes they're burp around them, or they're bragging and being mean, cutting in line. This is what being rude is. Okay, being mean. What are some examples of being mean?
Maybe using just like how it says right there, some, saying some hurtful things to another child, like, oh, you're ugly,
Yeah.
or, something like that.
I can't believe you're wearing that. Oh my gosh. So these are some of the things that the students came up with. Criticizing or making fun of something you're wearing, or how smart you are, or saying, I hate you, I'm so mad at you, I can't stand you right now. Making fun of the way someone talks, making fun of the way someone looks, or breaking or taking something of someone else's that belongs to them. We see that a lot in schools. So that is something that's mean. Okay, it is intentional, it was on purpose, and it was meant to hurt someone. But it's not going to be repeated all the time, and there's not an imbalance of power. So when these things happen, we want to help our kids learn how to self-advocate. And again, our kids might not always have the ability to self-advocate for themselves, but they might be able to advocate for themselves to a certain ability. So whether that's talking to their teacher or having a friend or making a friend that they know will be able to help them. So being able to advocate for themselves is the ability to speak up for themselves, to communicate their needs and boundaries and make personal decisions. So when students can develop that skill of self-advocacy, they learn to recognize their needs and identify acceptable behaviors in themselves and from other people. And this can be something that's taught and practiced at home with their siblings, with parents. It can be role played. And when they do this, they learn to focus on their challenges and apply a growth mindset that is directed towards solutions and healthy resolutions. And developing the skill of self-advocacy helps students become more independent, helps them become confident and successful in their educational journey and in their relationships as they grow. And I love this one because we did ask students, again in elementary, what is appropriate to say when self-advocating. And so that always makes me laugh. So to a friend, friends don't treat each other that way. I need a friend who will be nice to me. That's not cool. Cut it out. Knock it off. Stop that. That's bullying. And again, these are things that not every kid could say, but it's just fun to hear what some of them are saying. Something that's a little bit more bold is, I don't want to be treated that way. I like the way I look. That was not funny. You know, that was not that. I can take a joke, but that was not what you said was not funny. That was mean. So helping them come up with some things that they can say or ways they can respond to someone that is being mean is also a good way to help them learn to blow it off or to roll it off or to just respond to someone in a way that's not going to necessarily aggravate, but it can separate them from the situation for a moment to also get away and to get some help. Also helping them understand the difference between tattling versus telling. And this is a really difficult one for students to understand, but it is so important. So it is tattling if no one's hurt or injured. And this isn't one that we go into classes multiple times a year and help them understand like the problem versus like the size of the issue versus like if you really do need to tell or if you can handle it on your own. So if it is tattling, if no one's hurt, and you can handle it on your own, you don't need to go get an adult. If the person did it on accident and they say they're sorry, you don't need to have someone come help you. If it's the first time it happened, you might not need to get an adult right that moment, but yes, it's probably good to tell your parents and let them know. So that's going to be something that you might want to talk about depending on what it is. If you have the power to solve it on your own, solve it on your own. If your goal is to get someone in trouble, that would be tattling. Again, it's telling if it's the opposite. If someone really is hurt and needs your help, you're going to want to get someone to help them. If it's a pattern, yes, definitely. And parents, if it is a pattern, you also need to be documenting these things. Note it down. If it's cyberbullying and it's happening, take pictures of it. Document, document, document. I can't say that enough times. Document everything that happens because when you go to someone, that's what they're going to want to have. They are going to want to have all the documentation for that. And if kids do not have the power to handle this on their own, please help them understand that they do need to get an adult. We don't want them to feel like they're helpless and don't have the power to handle anything. So especially if you have a child that has a disability that cannot function or think through that and just feels lost. Like we have so many students in some of our classes that just like, they can't process that quick enough. And we want them to know that you are not just tattling. You are in a situation where you don't have the power to solve that. You go get someone. There is not tattling. You please go get someone to make you feel safe. Get someone to help you. It is the difference between tattling and telling. Okay. And it matters. If it matters to you, then please have someone help you. Okay. And then it is bullying. If it is intentional, done on purpose, repeated over time, it involves an imbalance of power. So this is a really important one. An imbalance of power is more than one person, so 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, if the other person is stronger or bigger, and there's an unfair advantage. If the actions are aggressive or unwanted by the victim, and the action occurs more than once. So this could be the person targets them repeatedly, they keep stopping them in the hallway, they're going to do this every day, or they're going to find them on the playground every day and do this. So they're going to continually do this. And these are some examples. These are some from my junior high students as well. So slamming lockers on them, saying words repeatedly that hurt their feelings. Manipulating is a really big one. With bullying, we see this a lot with girls. And then cyberbullying. And then these are the different types of bullying that you will see. So we see physical bullying, which can be that pushing, shoving, tripping, any assault, stealing or destroying someone's property. We see relational or social bullying. And this one is, again, this is where we see it a lot more with females. It's hidden form of bullying with no physical signs, usually happens between friends or groups. And this is like where they exclude someone from activities. We see this a lot when, and I don't know if you guys have girls that are like in third grade or above, but this is usually when we see this in the elementaries. And then verbal is using words to harass or hurt someone or scare someone. So threats, taunts, name calling, repeated teasing. And then cyberbullying is using digital means to engage in bullying. And we see this a lot on roadblocks. So I don't know if a lot of your kids will use roadblocks these days, but it can also be used on anything where they can communicate or leave comments. So YouTube, where they can leave comments on something. They can use it on their Chromebooks where they're communicating with someone. So anything where they can talk to someone online, where they can leave comments for someone online, Snapchat, Instagram, I would say Facebook, but that's for someone old like me. So it's just on anything where they can leave messages, text messages, anything like that. And then again, cyberbullying, the similarities are, again, it's going to be repetitive, intentional, and perceived as a power imbalance. And the hard thing about cyberbullying is it doesn't go away. It is really hard to get it taken down, and it follows kids home. The thing with bullying in person is kids could get away from that. They could leave school or leave the situation, and they would be safe from that for a little while. But cyberbullying follows their target. It's hard for kids to escape from that. That world is always open, and it's really difficult for that to get taken down. It isn't impossible, but it is very difficult. It is difficult to take action, especially if the person is posting hurtful content, because a lot of times people hide and are anonymous or create fake profiles and do that. And so it's really difficult. But if your child is being attacked through cyberbullying, again, please take documentation, take screenshots of that. It is very important to do that. It is helpful if people are trying to do research to find out who's doing that. Again, as I just said, document, keep a record of that. The first thing to do after that is to block that person from social media or roadblocks or whatever it is, and then report. There's a lot of great websites that will help you know how to block people. I believe it's NetSmarts will help you with all different kinds of devices and everything to know how to block or find out the ways to use those devices to know who your kids are talking to and all those kinds of things. So that NetSmarts is a really great way to protect your kids from cyberbullying and just know who they're talking to. If your child is doing the cyberbullying, talk to them about it. One of the hardest things when your child is doing the bullying, whether it's cyberbullying or being the bully, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but stay calm. It is really hard as a parent to stay calm. And I don't say this with any type of like ease because I have 2 adult children. So I've been through a lot of these heartaches. I've been there as my child has been the one that has caused other people anxiety at times. I've been there when my child we found out issues that we didn't want to find out. And staying calm is never an easy thing as a parent. But taking time to take a breath before addressing your child is going to be your go-to. And if your child is doing the bullying, talk to them calmly if you can. Help them understand what they're doing is wrong, what the behavior is that they're doing, because they might not understand what they're doing. And we see this a lot in some of our AA classes is they just don't understand how they're being mean to another child. They don't understand the conversations that are going on. They don't understand why there's a consequence for what's going on. And so helping them understand why what they're doing may be wrong is very important because they just might not understand. And this goes for all children. They just don't understand. And then helping them know how they can repair the situation, whether it's cyberbullying or in person, is going to be very important. Okay. I'm going to do a knowledge check. I'm going to test your knowledge here for a quick second. I'm going to give you guys an example, and then you're going to tell me if it's mean, rude, or bullying. Are you guys ready? Yes? Okay. So in a hurry to get to lunch, Georgia was running down the hall when she ran into Dora, knocking into her and making her cry. Was she being rude, mean, or bullying?
Rude.
Good. Yes, she was being rude because she was only thinking about herself. She just wanted lunch. She wasn't trying to, and she wasn't intending to hurt her, but she probably hadn't done it more than once, but she was just wanting to get to lunch. All right. In the hallway between classes, Emma and a group of girls repeatedly block Ava's path, bump into her on purpose, and whisper insults like freak or weirdo whenever she walks by. They've been doing this for weeks, and Ava feels afraid to even walk to her classes.
Bullying.
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 Why is it bullying?
It's targeted and repeated.
Intentional.
Okay, targeted, intentional, and repeated, I heard. You guys are so good. Okay, Lucas is in art class and tells Norman he can't use the colored pencils because he's the worst artist in 6th grade. Is he being rude, mean, or bullying?
Mean.
Yeah, he's mean because it's intentional, right? It was meant to hurt his feelings. All right, and this is my favorite one just because it will tell you a little bit about the things I like, but James and Sirius gather around Severus with some other friends. They call him names and cast spells on him while he's alone multiple times a week. And you'll get extra points if you can tell me what it's from.
Bullying, Harry Potter.
Yes, good job. Yes, James and Sirius are being bullies. They're bullying Severus Snape, okay? I know these are silly, but it really is important for us to look at the situations when our kids come home and talk to them about it. Find out what is happening. Okay, was it on accident? Was it on purpose? Was it intentional? Was it repeated? We really do need to be detectives when these situations are happening and find out what is going on. We don't want to contribute to the conflict. We want to understand and get all the information. And we also need to understand we are only hearing one side of the story. And so we need to be careful to not just assign the word bullying to everything that we're hearing. We do need to hear the whole story and get all the details that we can. And then we do want to go to the administrator or the teacher and find out the rest of the information and get help and advocate for our students. Okay, so we do want to teach our kids what to do when they are being targeted. We do want them to know to seek assistance from an adult, a friend, or classmate, especially if they're in a threatening situation. We do want them to be assertive with the person doing the bullying, not aggressive, but we do want them to be assertive, telling them to stop. You can say, leave me alone, stop bullying me. They can use humor to deflect a potential threatening situation, avoid unsafe places, or walk away before potential bullying occurs. They can agree or go along with a belittling a comment to diffuse it and then leave and just make sure they let someone know. They can be with their own friend group and not have to be with other groups. Again, not going into those situations or in those locations where it could happen. And then use positive self-statements to maintain positive self-esteem during an incident. And remain as outwardly calm as possible when bullying occurs so they don't show the other person how much it bothers them, which reinforces that bullying behavior. And these are really difficult. These are things that do take lots of practice. So there is an acronym that we like to use. It's called STAND. So stand up to bullying. So S is to show strength. Again, this is not to show their muscle. This is not to fight back, but to show their confidence. T, to tell a trustworthy adult that it's happening. A is to assert themselves, express their feelings. And then N is now. Standing up sooner rather than later is the best way to deal with these situations. And D, don't keep it to themselves. They need to make sure that they're telling you as their parents so that you can help advocate for them, or they can advocate for themselves, but they do need to make sure that they're telling you. And then some tips for handling bullying. And this is how you can help. First of all, communication is key. It can be very difficult for children to tell their parents that they are being the target of bullying behavior and that they need help. First of all, they might be ashamed, they might be afraid of getting in trouble or having some other reason for not wanting to tell their parent. It's much easier for parents to bring up the topic of bullying with their children, especially at like a neutral time before any indication that it's happening. So basically, as soon as possible, when we're done tonight, tomorrow night at dinner, when you're cooking with them, or when you're in the car, when you're playing a game with them, you can even ask them, oh, I heard about bullying. What can you tell me about it? Because I don't know very much about bullying. Try bringing up as like a new subject that you want to learn more about, because that's a good way for them to tell you what they know about it and have them explain it. And then you can be like, oh, okay, I've heard a little bit about this part. What can you tell me more? And then you can even say, instead of, have you ever been bullied, or have you ever seen someone bullied? When was the last time someone treated you this way? Or when was the last time you saw someone treated that way? Because then it normalizes that it is happening and you know that it's happening. We don't want it to be happening, but we do know it is happening. So when was the last time you saw this happen to someone? And then it does open that conversation for them. And then finding or creating the time to connect one-on-one with them is important, because you want that communication to flow naturally with them. You want them to know that they can come to you. So again, being intentional with your conversations is important, but being calm is just as important. We want them to know that bullying, again, is a natural part of growing up, unfortunately, but we don't want them to feel like they have to be tough or fight back. It's just going to happen. And we want them to know that if they witness it or something else, that how they need to deal with this. We want them to have a plan in place. So we want them to know that they're not going to get in trouble for telling you. We want them to know that they're not going to get in trouble for telling a staff person. And then if it does happen, that you're going to be there to help them figure out a way, okay, that you're on their team. You are their teammate in this. You're there for them no matter what. If it's them, if they're the one that does the bullying, if they're being bullied, or if they witness it, you're there for them. Okay, if you are concerned that they are being bullied, one of the first things you might do is know that there are two sides to each story. Again, our goal is to find out more and just not always jump to conclusions, but to find out what happens and then take steps from there. So again, we can start the conversations in a general way. Let them know that you're there for them, and you could practice some of these things. So we're giving you some conversation starters. So I've noticed you seem stressed or anxious, upset. Has anything happened to make you feel this way? Instead of just going, have you been bullied at school? That they're going to shut down right away. Or is there something going on at school that might be upsetting you? Whatever one of these might be more natural for you is a good way to start that conversation with your child. You can also say, you can give them conversation starters. So when you start this conversation with them, you can be like, okay, I know that if you ever are being bullied and you need a way to talk to me about this, you can say, Mom, I'm kind of scared to tell you this, but, or something happened that really bothered me. And I know that it's time for me to stop and listen because you're going to tell me about something that's really important, or any of these things. But you can say, you can give me any of these things to start this conversation. And I know that we're going to be talking about something important. And this can go for a lot of different topics. And it just gives them a way to start the conversation with you. So any of these ways you can give them to help bring up the conversation with you. Now, if your child confirms that they have been bullied, again, I can't say this enough, but stay calm, be open and curious to hear about the experience. Ask them questions. So, what's the history between you and little so-and-so? Has this ever happened before? Are you worried that it's going to happen again? What can I do to help you feel safer? Or what will make you feel safer? Is it okay if I talk to the school about this? And let them know that it isn't their fault. Okay, it is never their fault for being bullied. No one deserves to be bullied, no matter what was said, no matter what was done. There's no reason for anybody to ever be bullied. Tell them that you would like to come up with a plan for what they can do if it happens again. And then if it's online, delete them, block them, and then let the school know. Even if the cyberbullying is on the weekend, you got to let the school know. There are some mistakes to avoid. Okay, never tell your child to ignore the bullying. It doesn't just go away if it's ignored. We want to address it with them, and we want to help them process it. We don't want them to just ignore it. Don't blame the child for being bullied, even if they provoked the bullying. Again, no one deserves to be bullied. Do not tell your child to fight back physically. A lot of times I've watched the kids who were being bullied fight back because we have videos, and they're usually the ones that get caught, and we don't see the first person being the one that is fighting back. And so they're usually the ones that get suspended or expelled. And then, as hard as this is, parents should resist the urge to contact the other parents involved. It may make matters worse. So let the school or the school SROs or someone else act as a mediator and do that contacting first. And then there are some common characteristics of students that are targets for bullying behaviors. Sometimes those kids just latch on to those kids that are more perceived as being different from their peers. Overweight, underweight, not wearing trendy clothes, being viewed as different, lower income, more or less physically developed, sexual orientation, learning disabilities, being from different religions, races, or ethnicity. Again, this is like everybody. We see this happening all the time. If they find any insecurity, there's kids that are just going for bullying for those kids that just seem to be different. Viewed as weak or unable to defend themselves. If they're anxious or depressed, have a lower self-esteem. If kids have few friends, so they don't get along with others, or are viewed as being annoying or attention-seeking. However, if a child has these, it does not mean that they're going to be bullied. It just means they're more likely to be bullied. So how we can counteract these is helping them have a positive self-image, helping them find ways to make friends. And sometimes that means that we have to take them places, give them opportunities to make friends. These are some warning signs to look for if your child is being bullied, especially things like, I don't want to go to school, that anxiety that comes with those headaches, those stomach aches, faking illnesses, unexplained injuries, that loss or destroyed clothing, valuable items, trouble sleeping, loss of friends, or avoiding social situations are very common in students. These are some common characteristics of students who are likely to engage in bullying. They're going to be aggressive or easily frustrated. They're going to view themselves a lot of times as better than everybody else, might look down on other people, don't understand or appreciate others' individual differences, have a lot of difficulty with rules, hang around with other people who are doing bullying. So these are just, again, some of those that we might see. And then signs that your child may be bullying others, again, they are maybe going to be getting into a lot more physical and verbal fights. So you might be getting a little bit more frequent calls from the principal's office or the school, are becoming more increasingly aggressive at home, have unexplained extra money or new belongings, blaming others for problems, not taking responsibility for their actions. So that victim mentality, it's not me, but why is everyone blaming things on me? We do also see this a lot in schools. So this is that victim mentality is also a normal thing in elementary and junior high. It's not taking that responsibility for themselves. But research also tells us that there are parenting behaviors in the home that also may be tied to these behaviors. So like a lack of supervision, or too harsh or too lenient or inconsistent punishments or consequences. So some of these are, again, recognizing as bullying, but some of them are just other behaviors that are developed in the home. And then tips for addressing bullying behaviors when your child is the bully. So try to understand what is motivating that behavior. What is driving that behavior? What can we do as parents to help them? What can we do to find out, are they being bullied by someone else? Is there something else that's happening to them? Are they struggling in school? Do they feel like they're at a loss? Have open conversations about bullying with them. Maybe they don't understand what's happening. Well, they don't understand what they're doing. They don't know exactly what bullying is. Don't shame them or tell them that they should know better. Shaming your kids is not going to help them. That is just another way of bullying them. And help them deal with the consequences. There are consequences of bullying, and we do need to help them understand that there are going to be consequences. And yes, we are on their team. We are going to be there for them. But if the school suspends them or gives them a detention, they still have to deal with that. But we're going to be there and help them take responsibility for that. We're going to help support them through that. And we're going to teach them that it's an important skill to be able to deal with that. That's part of that responsibility. It's part of resilience. We're going to bounce back from this. It's a learning experience. Kids are going to make mistakes. It's part of growing up. And then I love this quote because it is something that we all learn. We learn things in our homes. We learn things all the time, but bullying is a learned behavior, and it's up to us to teach our children how to be kind and respectful to others. We're our children's number one teacher. We need to help them learn how to be kind and respectful to each other. And that is the number one place. We in schools can do all that we can to teach our kids all the lessons that we can. But in the home is the number one place where they're going to learn to be kind and to treat others the way that we wish that they would. And then I'm going to give you a couple resources. SafeUT is a wonderful app. All parents of students can have this. And I highly recommend downloading it to your phone. If you suspect bullying, or if your child is old enough and they have a phone, I would recommend downloading it there. They can report bullying anonymously. The more details that they can put on there, it goes directly to their school. It's a great, great app. 988 is also a wonderful, it's a nationwide number for mental health and crisis suicide prevention services. They can also talk to someone on SafeUT for free. And then stopbullying.gov is a fabulous resource to find out more about bullying. And if your child is being bullied at school, please contact their teacher, their school counselor, their school principal, the superintendent. I would do it in that order with the teacher first. Don't go directly to the superintendent, but please contact the teacher. Please contact the school, the counselor, and the principal. Please go through those resources and get help. Advocate for your child because you are their number one supporter. And then I know as I looked through, I'm very familiar with Granite School District, so I had lots of resources for them, but I did go onto the Box Elder site and I found that they have great resources, again, connecting to places like the Parent Center and other places like that are going to provide resources for you because they are committed to protecting students from all forms of bullying, because students have a right to safe, caring, respectful learning environments where they can realize their maximum potential and fully engage in the learning process. And I just want to remind you guys, as parents, as you're helping your students, focus on their strengths, their capabilities. Acknowledge and validate their struggles if they are being bullied. Help them reframe their challenges into opportunities. Help them learn from these things. They can bounce back. Encourage them to learn self-regulation, coping strategies when their emotions are high and when your emotions are high, because if a child is being bullied, your emotions are going to be high. What coping strategies are going to work best for you? Take 10 deep breaths, whatever it is. And then promote active problem solving. And then when they are able to do problem solving, congratulate their successes and efforts. And then be there to listen. Be there in the good times and the bad. And then as you do this, you're going to build deeper relationships with them where they're going to be open to listen to you and to come to you with other problems. Because again, you're their number one supporter and you're their number one advocate. And I just appreciate you guys for being here to listen tonight. And I am so grateful for all that you do for your kids, because it is so important. As someone who works in the schools, it is parents like you guys who make the biggest difference. So thank you for all you do. And I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Amy. We are going to go ahead and we're going to launch a poll, but we'd love to open it up for questions too, if you guys have any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. It's just a satisfactory poll. So we can keep having workshops like this and improving on what we're presenting on. And we thank you guys for coming. And we're a small enough group that if you want to just unmute and ask, you're welcome to.
One tip that I was told was that if you have the feeling like the school isn't maybe listening to you, that doing that through the Safe UT app is a really great tool that you can use, because then it gets reported. So that was just something that I learned just this week from another administrator that says, have the parents do the UT app, because then the school gets notified.
It's one of my favorite resources. I love Safe UT.
I like how you talked about staying calm. I think that that's really one of the hardest things to do as a parent when you feel like your child's being mistreated. But the more that you get worked up, the more they get worked up. So I think that's really great advice.
It's one of the hardest things to do as a parent, to stay calm. Especially when you want to protect your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate Amy's time. We're glad we were able to learn from you. And we'll go ahead and just end things unless anybody has a last minute question they want to ask. But we really appreciate it. And
Have
thank
a
you.
good night.
You too.